Part 1. The Joke of the Galaxy. Detailed breakdown 700 words when the Galactic Confederacy first discovered Earth. They didn't see potential, they saw comedy. Humanity's technological profile was so underwhelming by interstellar standards that even the lowest-rated galactic news nets couldn't resist turning it into satire. Compared to the elegant singularity drives and self-healing alloys used by the top species, Earth's fossil fuel engines and projectile-based weapons looked like crude museum pieces. Their ships were noisy, inefficient, and clunky. Their data networks relied on light-speed fiber optics. Their AI was little more than algorithmic guesswork. Earth was classified as a mid of mechanica 3x the interstellar equivalent of being labeled a backwater curiosity. This designation wasn't meant to insult, not officially, but the message was clear. Earth was irrelevant to galactic affairs, far too backward to pose a threat or offer useful trade. It was like discovering a tribe of clever squirrels with walkie-talkies amusing, but not serious. Within the Confederacy's glittering stations, laughter echoed as xenopoliticians passed around human cultural artifacts. Movies featuring space battles with visible lasers and noisy engines, handheld guns with bullet casings, analog clocks. Even the concept of paper documentation drew smirks. At the Intergalactic Academic Review, Earth's profile was used as an example of pre-warp civilizational stagnation in a popular article. Mocked human engineering under the title, When Duct Tape Holds the Dream Together. To the galactic elite, Earth's adoption into the Confederacy was more about showmanship than necessity. A gesture of benevolence. They sent sleek diplomatic envoys and offered second-hand technology-basic plasma reactors, obsolete AI chips, and translated technical manuals. Earth's leaders accepted these gifts with polite nods and smiles, seemingly eager to catch up with the rest of the galaxy. The Confederacy took this as confirmation that humans knew their place. What the galaxy didn't realize was that Earth had seen this pattern before, just on a smaller scale. History had taught humanity that being underestimated was not an insult, but an opportunity. And while the Confederacy viewed Earth's hunger for alien tech as a sign of desperation, humanity treated it as reconnaissance. Every gifted AI module was dissected. Every plasma weapon reverse-engineered. Earth's brightest minds learned not to copy but to understand. Meanwhile, in Earth's military command centers, the tone was very different from the diplomatic fronts. Generals, engineers, and analysts weren't offended by the galaxy's laughter. They were grateful for it. Because nothing drew fire faster than fear, and Earth had no intention of announcing how fast they were learning or how quietly they were preparing. The Confederacy mistook Earth's open trade policies and cooperative diplomacy for submission. They thought they were dealing with naive newcomers. But Earth was listening, watching. Building, they noticed how galactic fleets relied on centralized AI networks vulnerable to disruption. They observed the overdependence on energy shields that couldn't stop kinetic force. They noted the fragility of gravitic propulsion systems and how galactic doctrines dismissed redundancy in favor of elegance. So, Earth took a different path. Rather than abandon their primitive tech, they refined it, hardened it, made it modular, repairable, decentralized, and brutally effective. They weren't aiming to be impressive. They were aiming to survive the moment the galaxy stopped laughing, and in the shadows of their planetary shipyards and asteroid bunkers, Earth began constructing war machines not to match the Confederacy's sleek designs, but to break them. Old-school designs, ballistic weapons, manual overrides, physical cables, iron crews trained to operate even without automation. The joke of the galaxy? That was just a mask. A mask Earth wore gladly because no one feared a joke. And when the time came, when galactic expansionism crept too close to the Sol system, Earth would no longer be the punchline. It would be the silence that followed. Part 2. Obsolete, but deadly detailed breakdown 700 words. The first real sign that Earth was not what the galaxy believed came during the Io Conflicta. Minor border skirmish that should have ended in Earth's swift defeat. The Silaran Enclave, a mid-tier power within the Galactic Confederacy, laid claim to a mineral-rich belt on the outskirts of Jupiter's moon, Io. According to Confederacy law, Earth's claim was meaningless. They were, after all, a newly integrated species barely above pre-FTL classification, expecting no resistance. The Silurons dispatched a small Fleet 3 warships equipped with Class 6 plasma cannons and defensive AI systems. Their intention wasn't to conquer, just to show force. It was assumed Earth would retreat or submit, but Earth did neither instead. A fleet of Earth-built drones emerged from Io's orbit, cuggly metallic boxes with exposed wiring, solar arrays, and long-range coil guns. No shields, no warp drives, no FTL maneuverability. The Siluran commander laughed and ordered a forward sweep to clear the debris. That's when things went wrong. The first Siluran ship was struck before it could fire. Kinetic slug, traveling at incredible velocity, tore through its forward hull, bypassing shields entirely. Second ship's targeting systems began to fail. Its quantum AI, unable to predict the erratic analog movements of the Earth's drones, froze in a processing loop. The third ship fired only to discover that its plasma bolts, designed to melt shielded holes, scattered harmlessly against the hardened tungsten exteriors of Earth's drones. The battle was over in minutes. 3 Siluran ships reduced to wreckage, while Earth's drones, some damaged but still operational, resumed their quiet orbit around Io. The galactic community was stunned. It wasn't just that Earth had won, it was how they won. The Confederacy's military doctrines were based on assumptions of electronic warfare, quantum coordination, and shield-based defense. Earth had ignored all of that. Their tech was obsolete, but precisely because it didn't use the fragile systems the rest of the galaxy had come to depend on. Earth's drones were immune to jamming. They had no wireless signals to intercept, no AI to mislead. Hey there. Targeting systems were optical human, programmed to be precise and flexible. Their munitions weren't elegant plasma bursts, but solid kinetic rounds accelerated through magnetics, requiring no volatile energy cores. Alien analysts scrambled to explain it. Some claimed it was a fluke. Others blamed Siluran arrogance. But deep in military archives, the term asymmetric obsolescence began to appear. It described the phenomenon of inferior tech outperforming advanced systems precisely because it was too simple to fail in the same way. Earth had embraced this concept entirely. Their military engineers had studied galactic warships and intentionally avoided copying them. Instead of sleek FTL flagships with integrated neural AI, Earth built ugly, redundant vessels with overlapping compartments. Separate power cores and human crews trained to operate each system manually. It was expensive. It was inefficient. It was devastatingly effective. Take their coil guns, for example. While the galaxy focused on energy weapons and particle beams, Earth perfected magnetically propelled mass drivers capable of launching slugs, the size of refrigerators at fractional light speed. These rounds didn't care about shields. They didn't emit heat signatures. They didn't need targeting relays. They just hit and destroyed. More importantly, Earth never relied on a single command center. Each ship could function independently. Each drone had its own mission code. Each defense platform could fire autonomously if comms were lost. So when a Confederate tactician once remarked, "How do we cripple their fleet?" the chilling answer was, "You don't. There is no single point to hit." One quote from Earth's Minister of Defense, Helena Rourke, began circulating through both military and academic circles. "They call our tech a joke. That's fine, because jokes don't scare people until they draw blood." It was becoming clear that Earth wasn't behind in tech development due to lack of intelligence. They had chosen a different route. One focused not on elegance or speed, but durability, autonomy, and resilience. Earth's machines were made to last in the worst environments, to keep working after EMPs, after AI collapses, after power disruptions.
Ow.
Earth had a new nickname. Among military think tanks, the irregular engineers, because nothing they built followed expected galactic patterns, and everything they built worked. Part 3. The Turning Point. Detailed breakdown, 700 words. The battle at Io raised questions. The battle for Kepler-9 gave the galaxy its answer. What happened there wasn't just a skirmish or fluke. It was the moment when the galactic powers stopped laughing. Kepler-9 was a mid-tier colony world in the Confederacy's outer expansion zone. Earth had quietly established a presence on its second moon, setting up a scientific and resource extraction outpost. According to the Confederacy, Earth's claim had no weight. It was still under probationary protectorate status, with limited planetary rights. So when the Thalkar Syndicate, one of the more aggressive regional powers, laid claim to the system, Earth was expected to withdraw. Instead, Earth fortified, the Thalkar didn't hesitate. Their reputation was built on intimidation and overwhelming firepower. Their warships, shaped like obsidian crescents, were fast, AI-guided, and shielded. With fifth-generation quantum barriers, confident, they dispatched an entire task force of 6 capital ships and dozens of support craft. What they found waiting wasn't what they expected. No fleet met them in orbit. No war declaration. Just a low-orbit defensive grid built around Kepler-9's moon primitive-looking satellites, coil gun batteries, laser turrets, and strange metal spires that pulsed with energy but lacked any visible shield projection. The Thalkar initiated their standard breach protocol AI swarm tactics, overwhelming sensor cloaking, and targeted EMP bursts. None of it worked. Their first mistake was assuming they could jam Earth's grid. The orbital platforms didn't rely on conventional networks. They were hard-coded to operate on analog signals or direct line-of-sight tracking. Earth's engineers had expected interference and designed every weapon system to be autonomous, even under a total blackout. The grid could fire on its last assigned targets for hours. Their second mistake was relying on stealth. Earth's targeting systems didn't just rely on sensors. They used old-school optical triangulation, thermal cameras, and even radar pulses. The Thalkar ships weren't invisible to Earth. They were glowing targets. Their third mistake? Underestimating manual control. Each of Earth's defense platforms had human operators, trained gunners and engineers sitting in reinforced bunkers below the moon's surface, directly wired into the system. When AI targeting failed, human instinct took over. Their patterns are too predictable, one technician reported. It's just like a flight sim. Within the first 10 minutes, 2 Thalkar destroyers were obliterated. The remaining ships pivoted to retreat, but Earth had already calculated their exit vectors. Kinetic slugs traveling at Mach 20 intercepted them mid-burn. A plasma torpedo fired at one of Earth's surface installations was met with a high-powered laser that ruptured it in orbit, detonating it harmlessly before it breached the atmosphere in less than 30 minutes. An entire Thalkar task force was destroyed, and Earth hadn't even launched a single ship. It was the first time a galactic power lost a full assault force to a stationary, manually controlled defense grid. Alien tacticians scrambled to understand. How? The answer was a hard pill to swallow. Earth's tech had been underestimated, because it didn't need to evolve the way the rest of the galaxies had. While others chased refinement and elegance, Earth pursued function, grit, survivability. The Confederacy had long believed technological progress was linear, that any advanced society would naturally abandon crude ballistics, manual systems, and analog tech for something more advanced. But Earth had chosen another route, to keep the best of the old and hybridize it with the new, creating a resilient war machine that could operate under conditions no other galactic force had ever prepared for. That day, quote from Commander Rhea Grant, the Earth Defense Initiative's strategic overseer, began circulating in alien intelligence briefings. We don't build systems to be beautiful. We build them to keep working after everything else dies. The loss at Kepler-9 wasn't just military, it was psychological. For centuries, the Confederacy had built a myth of technological invincibility. That myth died in Earth's orbit. 4. The first time, top-level, galactic leaders began to speak in whispers about Earth's hidden potential. Some demanded immediate sanctions, as others proposed covert containment plans. A few even urged preemptive war. Before Earth could grow any stronger, but it was already too late. Humanity had shown its hand, and it wasn't polished or sleek, it was scarred, practical, and terrifyingly efficient. Kepler-9 was the turning point. From that moment forward, Earth was no longer dismissed. The galactic community realized something chilling. They hadn't discovered a backwater primitive world. They had awoken a death world. Civilization one that had spent centuries perfecting the art of survival through adversity and had now applied that philosophy to the stars. And worse, Earth hadn't even started its real war yet. Part 4. The silence begins. Detailed breakdown 700 words after the disaster at Kepler-9. The illusion of Earth's weakness shattered completely. Panic began to ripple through the Galactic Confederacy. Higher-ranking officials and military strategists, who once dismissed Earth as a technological toddler, now sat in closed-door war councils asking a question no one wanted to answer. What else have the humans been hiding? What followed was a dramatic shift in galactic behavior. Gone were the days of public mockery. Alien ambassadors who once joked about Earth's steam-powered space junk began sending encrypted communiques back to their homeworlds, warning of strategic reevaluation. Military drills were ramped up, intelligence services were deployed to monitor all Earth activity, and Earth did nothing. No threats, no announcements, no grand posturing. The planet remained outwardly peaceful, its diplomats polite, its leaders quiet. But the silence was worse than bluster. That silence was where the fear began. Then came the first disappearances. The Confederacy's Midrim patrol fleet assigned to monitor Earth's sector vanished. 25 ships. No distress signals, no escape pods, not a single piece of wreckage. The Confederacy's high command assumed sabotage. Perhaps a spatial anomaly. They sent drones to investigate and those disappeared too. Shortly after, the Argon cluster went dark. This was not a fringe outpost, but a bustling collection of colonies, trade hubs, and research stations. One by one, their coms stopped transmitting. Ships sent to investigate encountered nothing but cold space and empty orbits. No signs of battle. No evidence of natural disaster, just emptiness. Speculation exploded across the galactic network. Whispers emerged that Earth had developed some kind of weapon one that could erase not just fleets but entire systems. Others argued that Earth was using psychological warfare, sowing fear through false vanishings and interference tech. But those who knew humanity's history, those who had studied Earth's centuries of asymmetric warfare, knew better. Earth didn't bluff. The Confederacy's obsession with digital control systems, AI networks, and real-time comms had made their forces fast but fragile. Earth, with its analog redundancies and human-led strategies, operated outside the system. It didn't need galactic infrastructure, didn't care about your fleet's shield harmonics or AI coordination. If Earth had chosen to silence sectors of the galaxy, they had done so methodically, deliberately and without hesitation. Even worse, it became apparent that Earth was using its outdated technology to hide its movements. Without AI signatures, without warp trail emissions, and without reliance on beacon comms, Earth's ships moved like ghosts. You didn't see them until they fired. And by then, you were already dead. A terrifying trend emerged. The absence of patterns. Alien war planners could not predict where Earth would strike next. Their tactics made no sense by galactic standards. No strategic arcs, no planetary sieges. Just surgical obliteration, a fleet here, a station there, a world gone quiet. They didn't destroy for conquest. They eliminated potential threats, infrastructure, and supply chains. It was as if Earth was clearing the board without announcing. It was even playing the game. This confusion and growing paranoia triggered internal fractures within the Confederacy. Accusations of incompetence flew. Factions blamed each other for underestimating Earth. Several smaller species began withdrawing from joint defense projects, fearing Earth would punish them for their affiliation. A broadcast from an anonymous, high-rankings wrathy commander, believed to have defected after witnessing Earth's silent offensive firsthand, went viral in the black channels of the galactic net. You still think they're using primitive tech? You think this is about missiles and drones? But they're not fighting us with weapons. They're fighting us with strategy. Their technology doesn't need to be better than ours, just unpredictable, unbreakable, and impossible to stop. Das. Sectors continued to go silent. The Galactic High Command issued a Level 0 strategic containment directive, their most extreme wartime measure. The entire zones of space were quarantined, and any ship that tried to pass through was to be destroyed without warning. And yet, the disappearances continued. Earth's silence, once mistaken for submission, was now its most powerful weapon. Couldn't argue with a planet that didn't argue back? Couldn't negotiate with a species that didn't respond? Couldn't prepare for a war when the enemy never told them it had started? The phrase Terran silence entered the lexicon. Of fear in war rooms, officers began referring to regions going Terran, meaning they vanished, and no one knew why. For the first time in thousands of years, the Galactic Confederacy found itself outmaneuvered, not by superior firepower, not by numbers, but by a species that understood what it meant to be underestimated, and used it perfectly. Earth wasn't just fighting a war. Earth was erasing the board without ever raising its voice. Part 5. Laughter fades to silence. Detailed breakdown 700 words. By the time the Centennial Fleet Review approached the grand showcase of the Galactic Confederacy's myth, the laughter had long since faded. The Confederacy had planned the event for decades. Thousands of ships from over 100 member species would gather in the skies above Horalis, a golden world known for its peace treaties and diplomatic pageantry. It was to be a show of unity, a firm declaration that the Confederacy was still strong despite the growing whispers of fear around Earth. But it was an illusion. The unity was fraying. The military strength was hollow. And worst of all, they still didn't understand Earth. Behind the scenes, chaos reigned. Entire fleets had been reassigned to secure Terran threat sectors, but without pattern or predictability. Earth's movements couldn't be tracked. World after world had gone dark. Entire communication grids, thought to be invulnerable, had simply ceased operating. Earth never sent demands, ultimatums, or claims. Their response to every incursion, every insult, was action swift, merciless, and silent. On the eve of the review, the High Command held an emergency meeting. Dozens of systems had already stopped responding. Entire expeditions sent to investigate had vanished. There was talk that Earth had developed non-conventional weapons, gravitational collapse bombs, dimension-cutting technology, or perhaps something even worse. But there was no proof. It's just absence. That's what made it so terrifying. Earth never boasted, never claimed responsibility. There were no public transmissions. Just a growing void and the realization that Earth had chosen its targets with precision, and now the Confederacy feared it was next. The Centennial Review began anyway, despite the unease. Thousands of warships arrayed themselves in tight formation. Spanning continents in orbit, the Confederacy broadcasted the event across the Laxian attempt to reassure the public and project strength. It was during the final formation flyby that the stars blinked out. No one saw the arrival of Earth's fleet. There were no warp signatures, no gravitational ripples, no signals. One moment, stars shimmered in the background of the Great Fleet Parade. The next they were gone, blocked out by the silhouettes of vast black warships, brutalist designs, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Angular, unpainted, ugly, functional, deadly. The feed cut out seconds later, not due to interference, but because every Confederacy satellite in orbit was simultaneously disabled. Some were hit with targeted kinetic rounds, others fried by directed EMP beams. A few simply exploded without visible cause. On the ground, panic spread through Horalis. Their planetary shields activated, but too late. Earth's fleet had already dropped payloads of microdrones, designed to bypass standard orbital defense systems and attack from below. Still, Earth never said a word. Not a warning, not a declaration, just silence. Then, from deep space, a single encoded message arrived at the Confederacy's central relay hub. It was traced back to a dormant transmission buoy orbiting a rogue asteroid near Earth's orbit. Cloud, a decoy long considered inactive. The message contained no threats, no claims of victory, just 3 words. It's translated into every galactic tongue. You were warned. And then, one by one, the Confederacy's most fortified stations, military archives, and central hubs went offline. The silence wasn't just metaphorical anymore, it was absolute. The Galactic High Command tried to regroup. Emergency bunkers activated. Old contingency plans, buried for millennia, were dusted off. But they quickly realized the truth. They had lost the war before they knew it had started, because Earth hadn't fought like them. It hadn't played by their rules. It hadn't shown off power, sought recognition, or demanded territory. Earth had studied their systems, identified their weaknesses, and surgically dismantled them without firing a shot in public view. Earth's greatest weapon had never been its technology. It was underestimation. It was adaptability. It was the willingness to build machines that could function in the dark. In the silence, in the chaos that followed when the rest of the galaxy's tech failed, the Confederacy wasn't conquered. It was unplugged. And now, what remained of the Galactic Order whispered a new phrase in fear: don't provoke the silence. Earth didn't want to rule the galaxy. It didn't need to, because now no one dared laugh. And from that day forward, in every Academy archive and council across the stars, Earth was no longer listed as a primitive, laughable species. They were listed under a new classification: Terran Class Null. Do not engage. Do not observe. Do not interfere. If encountered, respond with silence. Because in a galaxy once filled with noise, politics, and arrogance, Earth had the last laugh.